Welcome to today's stock market report. Today is 15th of July. The market has closed in Kenya, and this is how the different stocks performed. Overall, the market has increased by 34 basis points. And in this analysis, I'm going to look at the individual sectors to make sense of the gainers, losers, and what it means for individual sectors and also individual stocks. You are all much welcome to my channel. My name is Eaagads Sifunam. I am a finance expert and qualified accountant, bringing you these amazing videos about stock market, investing, and making money daily. In case you appreciate the work I'm doing, remember to subscribe. Down there is a button called subscribe, and also drop a like on this video. Thank you for subscribing and liking this video. And with that, let's look at the first sector, which is agriculture. So today in the agriculture sector, the company that gained the most is Eaagads Limited, which did gain 1.99% on its stock. And this is supported by the continued optimism. If you remember, about 3 weeks ago, the government announced its intent to revamp the coffee sector, right? Eaagads mainly partakes in business of coffee, Arabic coffee, exports, and also local manufacturing. And that is actually reflected in this particular share price increase because of renewed buying interest following the recent developments, right? And then the company, which did lose quite a chunk of its proportion of shares, share price is Kapchorua Tea Company Limited, which did lose 1.1% on its stock. This is an interesting one because yesterday Kapchorua had gained a bit or recovered from the Monday loss in its stock price. But again today it's lost 1.1%. This is actually due to profit taking, but also remember there's some fundamentals whereby the market doesn't really appreciate uncertainty. And sometime early June, Kapchorua Tea did appoint an acting managing director. So that also, coupled with the dynamics in the market, have really caused the stock to be quite volatile. But remember, come the end of July, still Kapchorua Tea is going to be paying dividend to shareholders. Okay? And then the next sector is automobile. And the automobile sector in Kenya only has one company listed within that sector, which is the Car and General Limited. And today, Car and General did gain 2.3% on its stock. This is due to continued positive momentum as investors remain confident following strong earnings growth earlier this year and the company's recent dividend announcement. Of course, also it's been quite up and down due to also some clauses from the Finance Act relating to taxation of maybe vintage or antique vehicles and also the marine cargo tax, right? But despite that, the company's growth in earnings and also dividend announcement has really ramped up investors' confidence in this stock. And then the next sector, banking sector. Of course, this sector has been doing amazing numbers in the country, more so in recent months. The banking sector has been on an upward trajectory. And today, I think it's been more about price correction and also just recovering from some aspects of profit taking, because the gains haven't been that much in the sector today, in that the biggest gainer was NCBA, which did gain 0.85% on its stock. And this was mainly driven by renewed bullish sentiments as investors continue accumulating fundamentally strong large cap banking sector stocks across the different areas, across the different companies under banking. The gain has just been marginal as investors continue accumulating the large cap stocks. And then the company, which did lose a chunk of its stock, is Diamond Trust Bank, which did lose 1.02%. So it dipped by minus 1.02%. And this is not a cause for alarm because it's actually reflecting routine market correction following the recent dividend payout. The decline is not linked to the bank's fundamentals because, in fact, the earnings of DTB in their most recent earnings announcement was a gain of 29% on their earnings. So by no means is this reflective of their earning potential or business performance, okay? And then the fourth sector is commercial and services. Commercial and services has been on an up and down trajectory across different stocks. Honestly, that's been the trend in the past few weeks because it is a mix of some media houses, publishers, and also companies like Uchumi. And today, the biggest gainer was Longhorn Publishers, which gained 3.21% on its shares. And it was supported by improved investors' confidence following stronger quarter earnings. And beyond that, also remember, Longhorn is also having regional expansion explodes beyond Kenya. And that also has quite boosted investors' confidence, making the stock increase. And the other stock which increased in this sector is Uchumi Supermarket, which increased by 1.76%. And I think for Uchumi is continued speculation because remember, Uchumi did announce reopening of 2 of its branches in Nairobi, Langata and Unicity Mall on Thika Road about a few weeks ago, and also intention to restructure its business to get more into property management. So this more speculative is not really speaking to the fundamentals, given the hit Uchumi did take a few years back. Is trying to recover. And then the companies which lost a lot in this sector were first of all Express Kenya, which did lose 6% on its stock as investors took profit following recent gains. So for Express, it's more about profit taking. And then the other company which did lose was Standard Group, which lost 1.9% on its stock. And this reflects continued investors' caution despite even yesterday's recovery on Standard Group stock, because we all know, and even it's been public domain, issues around revenue challenges and payment delays within the media sector, okay? And then the next sector is construction and allied. This sector has also been showing some interesting numbers, but most of the companies here haven't really been changing a lot. And I'm saying so because under construction, the company which gained the most is East Africa Portland Cement, which today did gain 0.5% on its stock. And this is extending its recovery as investors continue responding positively to the company's restructuring and turnaround efforts. If you remember very well, the Amson Group from Tanzania did complete acquisition of East Africa Portland Cement end of last year. So this restructuring is kind of like also bearing fruits, given investors are coming back to regain confidence in the stock of East Africa Portland Cement. And then the company which did lose the most is Crown Paints, previously called Crown Begum. It did lose 3.8% on its stock, and this is mainly due to profit taking. Fundamentally, the company remains stable and is actually expected to pay a first and final dividend of 3 shillings per share sometime in August. So it isn't about fundamentals, it is more about profit taking on this particular company stock. And then the next sector is energy and petroleum. Energy and petroleum today has amazed big guys because all the stocks, all the companies under energy and petroleum have gained on their stocks today. And this is just a reflection of the continued investor confidence in the energy sector. And among the gainers, of course, is the KenGen, Kenya Power, Umeme, TotalEnergies, you name it. For KenGen specifically, remember as I shared with you to yesterday and also 2 days ago, the company really announced it's going to be going very hard on renewable energy. It's the main producer of electricity or generator of electricity in the country. So it going very hard on renewable energy is going to mean it's going to be diversifying beyond geothermal and hydro. And that is something which the country needs, more so with the increased requirement in the energy sector. Think about more data centers coming to be established in Kenya. Think about more and more electric vehicles getting into the country. The demand for energy and actually huge volumes or amounts of energy is bound to increase in the country. So KenGen announcing that, it means basically investors are going to have confidence in the stock and its explodes. And as a after effect of that too, Kenya Power being a main distributor in the country, also we're seeing its stocks price increase. And of course, as I said, Umeme, despite the increase in Umeme Limited, that is not a Kenyan company. It is a Ugandan company which is cross-listed at the NSE. And it was cross-listed some times back to be able to also raise capital through the Kenyan market, given it was the main distributor of electricity in Uganda. But that ceased sometime mid last year when it handed over back the operations and also the distribution rights to the government of Uganda, following over 20 years of it distributing. So we expect more of this going to be about maybe the company closing down or even trying to pursue recoveries. And I expect maybe in the coming maybe weeks or even months, we might see it drop off this particular bows. Okay. And then the seventh sector is insurance. Under insurance, the biggest gainer today has been Kenya Reinsurance, which gained 1.74% on its stock. And this is supported by investor sentiments surrounding it and its recent dividend declaration. And of course, improved fundamentals because the company is expected to pay dividends at the end of this month, at the end of July. And then the company, which did lose, and actually this was marginal, it is more about a correction from profit taking, was Britam, which lost 0.3% on its stock, but no cause for alarm because also Britam holding stocks are actually in good health, and Britam is even pursuing expansion in the region. For example, pursuing acquisition of insurance entities in the DRC for it to expand to the DRC market, which has a population of 116 million people. So it is also doing positively well, and its fundamentals look solid despite that adjustment due to profit taking. And then the next sector is investment sector. Guys, this sector has actually confused me because the stocks in this sector have been up and down. They've been all over. In case you've been looking at the market, they have honestly been all over. And today, the biggest gainer has been Home Africa. It's gained 5% on its stock. And this is driven by active retail investors' participation in the market and also the investors re-rating the company following its ongoing restructuring initiatives. Of course, we all know Home Africa some time back had some struggles, so it's been restructuring and seems like investors' confidence has really boosted. And also, Centum investment did gain marginally by 0.69%. Also remember, Centum has recently been going very hard on some form of restructuring, like for example, strategic asset sales and also corporate restructuring, even letting go some of its assets just to ensure it unlocks capital and also cash flows, okay? And then the company which lost, and I'm not really surprised, it lost quite a huge chunk, is Olympia Capital, which did lose 2.35% on its stock. The loss of Olympia Capital is not by accident. Remember, this particular company has also quite been struggling, and investors remain cautious while awaiting stronger evidence of sustainable business turnaround. Remember, some few months back, Olympia Capital did announce its biggest dip in earnings in 20 years time window. That's not something bigger, guys. It is a big news and fundamental to the market. Imagine it's announcing its biggest loss in 20 years. That has really hurt its stock price and has been reflecting in its share price in recent weeks. And then the ninth sector is investment services, which of course is the self-listing by NSE, which did dip by about 0.63%. But on this, no cause for alarm, guys, because this is a reflection of the entire market. It's a broad market reflection, not really an NSE specific reflection, okay? And then under manufacturing and allied, the biggest gainer, which also is more about adjustments post profit taking, has been Kabasid Investment, which did gain by 0.28%. And this is posting modest gain during this particular season, okay? And then the company which lost also modestly is Flame Tree Group, and it did lose 0.54% on its stock. And this reflects normal day-to-day volatility, typical on relatively thinly traded small cap stocks. So also those thinly traded small cap stocks typically have some adjustments on their share prices, okay? And then the 11th sector is telecommunications. Under telecommunications, we have Safaricom. And today, Safaricom's stock remained unchanged, meaning sellers and buyers didn't have any disagreement. They were in tandem with regards to what the share price should look like, and that hasn't really made the stock to change, whether positive or negative. But then again, also remember, right now, investors who are pro-dividend investing are most likely holding onto the shares of Safaricom, given in the next 2 weeks, we're going to have the AGM happen on 31st of July, the AGM for Safaricom, and it's going to be a major AGM because it's going to be making some votings relating to the recent dynamics around ownership of Safaricom, where the government of Kenya did cede 15% most of its stake at Safaricom to the Vodacom group. And now the shareholders are going to be voting when it comes to if the Vodafone Kenya Limited is going to have the full rights to be nominating the CEO of Safaricom, and also with regards to the government of Kenya continue to have a say when it comes to the expansion effort of Safaricom in the region beyond Kenya and Ethiopia. Okay? And then the 12th sector is real estate. Also in real estate, the REITs listed there did have any change in the price. And this is expected because we're talking about this being a closed traded activity. So we don't expect lots of any or even any liquidity in the stock market unless the underlying companies do any execution. Okay? And then the 13th sector is ETFs, exchange traded funds. And under ETFs, the main news here is that the NewGold ETF today gained 1.95%. And by the way, this again following a recent slump in its price. And this is a reflection of an increase in the global gold spot market. The price of gold increased. Thus also it trickles down to this particular ETF because ETFs respond based on the backing asset performance. When in the international market, the spot price of gold increased, it meant that the dollar pressure did reduce. And in effect, also the ETF has gained by 1.95% in today's trading at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Guys, what do you think about today's performance at the NSE? I hope today's report is useful to you and is giving you knowledge even as you continue making investment decisions. Remember, this is not financial advice, it's me just sharing what is happening in the market for you to stay informed. Cheers, guys, and catch up again tomorrow.